The NBC TV reporters did see the fragrant oil flowing down on the Blessed Mother's face while they were in the chapel. One of the reporters held the Blessed Mother's statue and pressed firmly on the top of the Blessed Mother's head with his finger to see if he could make more oil come out. Then he asked Julia to allow him to take the statue to his company in Seoul for examination. Julia said that they could bring their equipment to the chapel, but she could not hand over the statue to them. In their video, NBC accused Julia of refusing its request to examine the fragrant oil from the statue as if she had something to hide. 8 years prior to NBC TV's report in October 1999, another major TV network in Korea, SBS TV, did order a test of the fragrant oil in Naju at a laboratory and broadcasted the result. This report concluded that the fragrant oil in Naju might be a new substance different from any oil that exists on Earth. Dr. Jong-shin Yu at Laboratory for Supporting the Basic Sciences.
We found a small amount of fatty acid compounds that can be obtained from various kinds of animals and plants. We also found some shiny oil, which we tried to match with candle wax, or olive oil frequently used in religious ceremonies, and other edible oils, but it did not match with any of them.
On November 24, 1994, Archbishop Giovanni Bolaitis, the Apostolic Pronuncio in Korea at that time, visited Naju and witnessed 2 miraculous descents of the Holy Eucharist in the chapel. In the evening of the same day, Julia went to Wonmidong Church in Incheon to give her testimony. While speaking in the church, Julia unknowingly dropped a small piece of white linen that had absorbed some of the fragrant oil in Naju, which she had put between the pages of the Bible that she often carried with herself. After Julia left, someone found a small piece of linen on the church floor and gave it to the pastor. The pastor smelled fragrance from this linen and immediately thought that it must have been the source of the fragrance that had been filling the church during Julia's visit. His suspicion grew deeper, and he continued telling others that Julia was carrying a piece of linen to simulate the miracle of fragrance. Eventually, the pastor even began saying that Julia could also be carrying a small bottle of fragrant oil with her all the time. The pastor testified to NBC TV reporters that Julia was fabricating the miracle of fragrance. There are several reasons why the pastor's suspicion is not justified. First, Julia never carries on her body any linen pieces that absorb fragrant oil, or any bottle containing oil. The small piece of linen that she dropped in Wonmidong Church was between the pages of her Bible and not on her body. Second, fragrance from the small piece of linen that had absorbed fragrant oil is weak and cannot fill the church or any large room with a powerful fragrance. Many individuals have received this linen piece from Naju and can testify that the fragrance is not strong enough to fill a church. Third, the fragrance from the oil and the fragrance of roses in Naju smell different. Anyone can easily distinguish between the smell of oil and the smell of fresh flowers. The odor that filled Wonmidong Church was the fragrance of roses, not of oil. Fourth, the miraculous phenomena of fragrance associated with Naju have occurred not only near Julia, but also even hundreds of miles away from her. When people read a book of messages in their homes, pray before the statue or photograph of the Blessed Mother of Naju, tell others about the Blessed Mother of Naju, or pray the Rosary together with other pilgrims on the bus to Naju. The phenomena of fragrance are very frequent signs experienced by many pilgrims to Naju regardless of their locations. It simply does not make any sense, and even can be slanderous to attempt to explain away all these signs as human fabrications. SBS TV also performed a test on the fragrance in Naju by hiring an expert on fragrances. The results were broadcasted on October 10, 1999.
향기는 눈에 보이지 않는 만큼 좀 더 정밀한 분석을 위해 향기 전문가를 동행해서
The following is a report by one of the SBS staff.
I could really smell the fragrance. As fragrance is not something visible, I was accompanied by a specialist in fragrances. We collected the air while we could smell a strong fragrance 3 times in 2 days. The air samples were sent to a laboratory. Interestingly, the test instruments did not detect any fragrance from the air samples.
The test instrument is capable of detecting any odor, whether it is natural odor or an artificial one. The fact that the fragrance in Naju was not recognized by the test instrument indicates that the fragrance in Naju may not be of this world.